we go.
I'm a spark, I'm a fire, get started on desire.
Oh, there you go, there you go, there you go, there you
How
go.
it feels to be free. Hold my breath, walk a flame. Now I won't be the same.
Just like that, hunting for walleye. Oh, wow, dude. Yeah.
Good way to start the morning.
Beautiful. Yeah.
It's my life. It's my life. And I'm living like the whole wide world is an open road to drive. It's my life. It's my life.
There we go.
I'm in love. I'm a dream.
Oh, look at that fish.
In between.
Oh, there he is. Nice jig in the middle, walleye right below the pontoon. There we go.
Like a rolling stone that has
Look at the size of this beast. Unbelievable.
It's my life. And I'm living like the whole wide world is an open road to drive. It's my life.
Bam, I think we hit bottom. There we go. Doubled up. Nice. That's a good one.
Whole wide world is an open road to drive. Life.
Welcome to another episode of the Spring Fishing and Boat Show. Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting personal. We are getting personal with all our speakers, and we've been kind of like, these guys have become faces of the Spring Fishing and Boat Show, and we're really proud to not just call them speakers, but partners in what we do and educating people and really getting people outdoors and having fun, getting the maximum how do I say this? Like, to catch the maximum amount of fish you can catch and making the most of your days and outing. And I'll tell you, that video that we just watched, I watch it numerous times from other pods that we put out. And I'll tell you right now, I never get enough of it. And our next guest is a part of that video, and he's a personal friend of mine. And you've seen him at the show so many years now, and we look forward to seeing each other every single year. And it's been now 2 or 3 years we haven't seen him, and we are going to see him in just a few minutes. We're going to see him right now, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome right now, Jeremy Smith. Jerry, you there, buddy?
Hey! Thanks for having me, Andy. Great to see you.
I just got so excited. I got so excited. I've seen the picture of you and the video, and we talked a little bit before, and I was like, I don't know, I'm so excited right now, dude. I don't know what to say, but I feel sad that you're not here. I can't give you a big hug, but it'll happen next year or maybe sooner. You never know.
Yeah, we just haven't done shows, in the last couple of years, obviously with the whole, like Jimmy calls it, the COVID incident. But we just miss it, just seeing everybody and that crew up there. There's just so many great fishermen, and we go up there to talk about fishing, but we end up learning. It's like a learning adventure for us when we go up there too, all kinds of different stuff, because that show just draws so many great anglers. It's really a fun mix.
Yeah, and it's true. Like, even like I'll walk through the show and I see people that I sometimes only see them once a year, but then we see people through the summer. I get people at the tournaments like to pull in and just to pull in and say, I just wanted to say hi to you. It's right. Everybody's welcome, right? But like it's the same thing. Like, when you guys, you come up, and the funny thing is you come every year, and it just seems like the following year it's like, oh, that was just like last year, but it feels like it was a lot closer, right? Like, there's no time in between. So I'm really hoping that's going to be the case come next February, that just it's like, this is something we put behind us, and we say, hey, we had a couple of band-aids along the way to keep it going. And but this show's about you, buddy. We're here to talk about, we just want to kind of let our folks know, that especially the people that come to the show, why do we pick you guys? Why do we partner with you guys? And the thing is like, every year you guys come to the show, and and it's not the same presentation. You're talking about new stuff because you're fishing. How many days of a year do you fish? Like just typically.
Well, it's quite a few, not so much. I do ice fish a lot. But in the summer, well, I've got kids now, so now I'm only on the water like 4 or 5 days a week. But
Oh,
before
sorry.
that, I was on the water pretty much every single day. And it's fun with like the group we've got here. With Al and Jimmy and a number of people, Jeff, people in the office that just love fishing. Is it's I think what keeps us wanting to do it more is it might be crappies today, and then we're going to learn to catch channel catfish, and then we got to go try to do something on walleyes, on artificials, then it's largemouth bass and slop. So we really just enjoy fishing for everything, and that just keeps it different and fun, and it's just great, and you're always learning something.
You guys have like 4 minds working together, right? And dissecting everything. And when it comes to lure product and making that lure work, especially with your shows and stuff like that, like, you got 4 great minds working together, and you're working on even new products sometimes that you're, well, not sometimes, most of the time that you guys are working on and demonstrating. It has to, I can understand why you always got new content to bring forward because it's constantly changing.
It is constantly changing. When I started, in the television business, we just had 13 shows, and we had all summer to work on those 13 pieces of content, and then they go out, in the winter. So the way the TV stuff works is you shoot basically all spring, summer, fall, you edit it, and then you distribute it in the first quarter of the following year. So there's this, we had a lot of time to polish stuff, and now just with the flow of media, we're making content. We do about 65 television shows, but then we're also kicking out over 300 pieces of short form content. So now it's just turned into every single day is it's just a battle to get more and more content out. So it's just different than it used to be, but it's still fun, and the short form stuff is great because you can take little ideas and you can push them out in more manageable stuff rather than just making shows. We like to just take a concept or a story about it and make it into a television show, a full long piece of format. And then with the short stuff, we can just take little tips and bits and share that independently.
Yeah, you know what? It's and a lot of it's like it has to be fun as well for you guys. Obviously, doing all this stuff. Like obviously, last night you just told me you were on a ice fishing trip for sturgeon. Like who would ever thought sturgeon through the ice is something even possible, right? So like, is there many stories like this? Like many stuff that like sturgeon through the ice that you guys do?
Yeah, well, kind of. We're always looking for unique bites. So in terms of managing what kind of like content that we would produce, we look at it. What's the most popular, and really, our base of operations here at Lindner Media is in central Minnesota. So we are in the heart of really walleye country. So walleyes and panfish do really well for us. People love that content. Of course, smallmouth bass, and then also muskies, one of my favorite fish, and then northern pike are another great critter. But when we're doing ice content, we try to do this management of like, okay, we know that people love panfish. We know that walleye are big. So we try to cover down really well on those pieces of content throughout our content calendar. But then we also want to show the other opportunities that exist, because we think that anything that swims is worthy of chasing and learning more about and trying to understand and catch. So sturgeon are, this is the first through the ice sturgeon piece that we film. But burbot, that's another fish that we just love chasing. Whitefish and ciscos, we really like targeting those to the ice. So catfish, that's another one that you just don't see a lot of. But yeah, fish that people might not think are worthy of chasing are actually going to be some really good bites.
It can be a lot of fun, right? And
it is.
I guess when you think about it, like first off, I want to say you're working with some, including yourself, like the people in your group are phenomenal people. Like Al Lindner, James Lindner, like it just like blows you away when you think of that. And it must be like it must make you proud too, dude. You're in my opinion one of the top groups. You are the top group when it comes to this. When I used to think of the in fisherman show, I used to always think mainly walleye. But James once said to me, actually Al said to me once that he goes, we really do good with bass too, you know that, right? And I'm like, because it was like our conversations were always walleye because of the relationship with Lund over the years and meeting him at all these presentations, and I'm pretty sure it was Al that said to me, he goes, "Hey, you know, Andy, we're pretty good with bass too, you know that."
I believe it. You know, Al, if he's got the chance, of course, he loves fishing for everything too. But you know, in the summertime, everybody thinks Alvin or walleye. You must be walleye fishing, walleye fishing, walleye fishing. Well, in the summer, if you talk to him after the weekend, it's going to be, well, I got bass on frogs, or I tried the river for smallmouth, or bass, bass, bass. He really, really loves bass fishing and is a world-class bass fisherman as well, you know. So we do fish for walleye and love a good walleye bite. But yeah, Al does have that stereotype as the walleye guy, but in reality, he really, really, really loves bass fishing, especially smallmouth.
I've always wondered, you know, if Al preceded I know James does, he fishes a lot of bass tournaments, and I always wondered, you know, back in the day, like going back in the day, like I've been part of this for 30 years, I'm dating myself, and I always wondered, like, you know, where would like, I know where Al stands when it comes to the you know, the whole fishing scene, I think, you know, being the man, right? But in the tournament world, I always wondered, you know, where would he be in that whole lineup of guys, you know, in that tournament scene? And I think he'd probably be the top of it, you know, like he's that guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's really good. You know, some of the things you pick up on, you know, so I'm kind of in that tweener generation where, you know, Al grew up with, you know, basically starting with no technology to fish with, and then getting into the flasher, and then, you know, technology just moved at a snail's pace through much of his career. And then, you know, I started just a little before the flasher, where we actually had, like, you know, the fish symbols and paper graphs. A paper graph was the first fish finder that I had, and also had a flasher too. And then, you know, nowadays people are you just start with live imaging and all of this amazing technology. But what I'm getting at is, you know, it's pretty remarkable. A couple times I've been with Al on, like, Canadian Shield lakes, and he hasn't been there for like 10 years. And if you went and looked in Al's fish finder and looked at the waypoints, like, I always download them before we sell the boats, just to make sure that they don't get shared, but then I'll download them. He's got like 3 waypoints for 2 years. Like, he can just remember stuff. Like, he'll just have his screen on 2D sonar and drive into the middle of the lake and stop in a spot. It's like, oh yeah, you know, the crown of this spot is over here, and then, you know, it drops off on this side, blah, blah, blah. And you're looking at it and you're like, how could you have just stopped in the middle of the lake and landed here? Like, he's still got that skill set of triangulation. And that's kind of a lost art of people just knowing what's going on in the environment around you and where to be, you know?
Well, it's also the old school. There is like a church top there, and there's a street light there, and we're in the cross point. So this is, no, you know what? That's the furthest from the truth. But I'll tell you right now, sometimes it's just that knowledge. It's a sense, right? And I think it's a sense that the more you're into it, like yourself. So you got into this, and now you're like, you know, we were talking earlier about the other day. We were talking about, you know, and I asked you, like, what is your specific fish? I'll ask you again. What would you say you are? What is your favorite fish? What would you say you're a specialist of?
Well, I like fishing for everything, really. I mean, but you know, muskies, I really like muskies. So kind of, if you think about fishing, or the way I look at fishing is I love learning. That's my favorite part about it. So there's always a learning curve associated with anything that you're getting into, not just fishing, but just everything in life. And, you know, really where you're at on that learning curve, and you're always learning no matter what, but there's points when you're attacking something that you're just gathering so much information, it's all clicking and it's making sense. And so for some fish that, you know, you can go through that relatively quick when your, you know, your life revolves around fishing. But muskies are just one of those fish, in my opinion, that it's like, no matter what you do or how much you think you've learned, and their densities are just so low that you just can't ever really feel like I have this dialed, like you might with crappies or something, for example. You know, where you know, in the summer there's lots of them, they typically cooperate. You can kind of get through that learning curve of knowing what to do, where to do it. But with muskies, it's just always that crazy difficult challenge, and I really appreciate that, and I think it makes them pretty cool. And of course, their curious nature, their attitude, their willingness to bite at the boat and jump, and they get huge. And to me, there's just so many great things about them. But I know they're not for everybody, but I really like them.
dude, I can see the excitement in you just talking about it. You know, it's pretty cool. So,
Yeah.
you know, we've always had our Muskie Sunday at the show, which has been a pretty big thing at the show over the years. Like we've had years where we had one year, I believe, the fire department came in and made us clear the room out and had to head count how many people could go back in. It was
Oh,
that easy. So it's like, and then we have the Muskie Odyssey, and I really hope they get a chance to go this year because like they're a really great good group of guys, and you know, like all the money they raise from that, and we allow them to raise money in our show too, which is good. But that really goes back, and they spend a lot of money in conservation of muskie and studying muskie, and I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I think these creatures are so smart, you know what I mean, and they're evolving with men, which is probably like just like you know, I talk about deer, and it's the same thing. Like they're, you know, out of all the game, I find deer are the most, you know, amazing, smart, intelligent, and I think that you might be right there when it comes to muskie, how they, you know, they evolve. They're evolving with us, so it's pretty cool. But the one thing you did start off is like, you know, I kind of felt like I drove that out of you, but like you love all fishing, and that's what makes it great because you talk about all fish and make sense of it and make it work. So like, I don't know, how you guys dissect the situations is probably, and how quickly you guys can do it. I think that speed, and because of your shows and stuff, it makes a lot of sense. So, you know, who would you think was probably like who would you say you've done a show with, like, and not one of the Lindner guys, but who would be a guy that you maybe had a show or you've had a chance to work with that's probably a memorable guy? Like, who would be that person? I mean,
well, you know, there's a few some lifelong friends I've got to film with and whatnot. But Luke Ronestrand was so we were just talking about muskies and how much I love muskies. And Luke Ronestrand is a friend of mine. We've known each other since we were young, getting into muskie fishing, but we had never fished together. And it's been probably 5 or 6 years ago now that I got to fish with Luke, and there was just so many things. I mean, so in that 20 years since we've known each other, Luke has just been a hyper focused, a specialist on muskies. That's just what he does. He fishes for other things too, but I mean, just a whole nother level of expertise and subtlety and having that time and experience to really pick up on little things that can only be acquired through time on the water. And that was really memorable. And we had a tough bite, but we still scratched out fish. And just how he just the things I would talk to you about might not seem like much, but it's just, you know, thickness of wire on this bait and you know, subtleties with color based on mood of the fish that some people might say, well, you know, it's just color, that who knows. But he, you know, he had a strong conviction to a lot of these things, and obviously they work for him. And you know, I took a lot of that to heart and kind of changed the way I was approaching things in muskie fishing too. So that was really a fun deal in recent memory.
and I think that's why I can say this is why we bring this guy to our show, because it's those little things that you would never even think of that he picks up in all these different areas and he brings back to us. So and you don't hold back, which is the best thing about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
have you ever had a Bill Dance moment? Have you ever had a blooper moment? Like, what would be your blooper moment?
Well, that's probably not appropriate for what we're doing here. But no, there's one that everybody got a kick out of. We were fishing. I'd taken Al. There's a little river north of us here that keeps coming back to muskies. But I've got this little 16-foot John boat, and it really is made for like an inflatable raft or a kayak or something. Not this 16-foot John boat, and it just gets pounded and beat into the water. And I remember I was doing this little sound bit about how to safely navigate through these, you know, the V's that you see in the current with the boat like this, so you don't smash and fall in. And of course, as I'm going through the whole bit about how to navigate safely through this, I smash into a boulder and fall into the river. So that was a real good one, just giving advice on how to expertly navigate this stuff as I crash the boat and fall overboard. So
So, you know, it's funny, but I think everybody's got one of those moments where I was like, here I am, and then I'm like, boom, I get stuck in it, right? So
yeah, right.
that's pretty cool. You know, there's a lot of things, and even with the spring fishing and boat show, we always constantly try to bring new things to the table, and you obviously bring those new things to the table. What are some of your goals? Like, you know, what are some of your goals that you haven't reached that you're trying to get to? Like, obviously you're trying to get better every year, but is there a level where you think that you want to be at one day? I know it's kind of a really broad question, but
that's kind of hard to answer. There's different things. I mean, obviously your priorities change. If you would ask somebody who's 20 years old what their goals are in fishing, it might be to be
yeah.
a big time tournament person or an influencer, whatever those things are. But as you kind of go through it, priorities change. I want to be a really good dad, and I want my kids to appreciate what what I really love and what we do, and have of course the family involved with that, and so that's my priorities have kind of shifted towards kids and making a good experience for them, and I just really appreciate rounding out everything in fishing, and this is kind of divergent, but I think a lot of this is lost now with the way information flows. It rather than take many years to learn where to fish, why the fish are there, what the habitat's like, all of these, what lure to use to catch them. Now with just a short bit of online research, you can get this information, and that's great. Don't get me wrong, that's great, but there's some depth of understanding that is missing with that element, of it. So growing up catching worms from under rocks and turtles and frogs, and going to catch your bait and then catch a small fish and use that small fish to catch a bigger fish and learn where the weeds are from trial and error. All of those things I think are so fun and really add to fishing. And I just want to help people understand the ecology of everything and what's happening to get a bigger picture of what's happening in the underwater world. I think that stuff is really cool.
You know what? I agree. I think that the kids, and we've all gone through that. I remember growing up, we'd be in the local creek, digging up rocks, salamanders, all that stuff. And nowadays, I don't know that. I know that they're not. The kids are on their, they're on their games and having fun. And then when they finally hit it, I just don't know if they have the roots that will hopefully keep them into the sport, because I think it's great to, for them to tune in and pick up something. And this is why, last year we did the seminars and you were part of it. And this year we thought, we need to get personal, because the Spring Fishing and Boat Show has always been about bringing guys like you and getting personal and not just a chance to meet you, but a chance to understand what you're saying, because the way you say it in person is a lot different than when you say it in video. So I'm not knocking the video side of the world, because it's just the way the world's going. But I think that we might be missing out on the grassroots part of it, that, it's parents like you that need to get their kids out and start them young. And it doesn't have to be with a fishing rod. It could just be going out that creek, you know what I mean? And doing what you have to do and not missing out on that time, because as outdoorsmen, right? I know that I think you guys are in the same position with being I guess with winter and the summers being so short, and the amount of time you have to get out and fish, and you want to take advantage of it, and then you're just crisis with work. You have to work and do all that stuff. That the idea is that I guess it's important to maybe take that weekend, couple weekends out with your kid and bring them into that mix. And that's something that you have to balance right now between work, fishing, which is, I think, is work and fishing different for you? Is that a good question?
Well, at this point, it's always, I don't know how to explain it. It's whether it's always fishing or it's always, it's always the same. You've always got something in mind. So I love fishing and I love work. So it's up, to me, it's everything's always good. So, but anytime I'm fishing, we're always thinking about how we can make this a new piece of content.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, kids have to be in that backset, in that mindset.
Oh yeah. Yep.
You don't want to miss that time with them, because they're only young for so long, right? And
that's right.
And then hopefully they become you 10 years from now, and we'll have them on the Spring Fishing and Boat Show.
Well, you're talking about the interacting with people at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show, and that I'm sincere when I say that this is my favorite show to go to every year, because of those interactions. I mean, it's just great. You're talking to people who are experts at trolling for king salmon on Lake Ontario, and walleye experts on Lake Erie, and then you've got smallmouth bass experts on Simcoe, and then all of a sudden you hear stories about big muskies and nipissing, and then there's a lake whitefish story, and then you learn about steelhead and brown trout and Atlantics, and just an amazing group of fishermen that have diverse interests and different expertise levels. And anytime you get a chance to talk to somebody and learn about a different technique, just because it works for, say, steelhead, doesn't mean that you might not be able to take that same idea with steelhead and turn it into something for bluegills or blue cats. There's just so many concepts in angling that if you understand how people approach so many different fish species in different environments in different ways, you all of a sudden have these aha moments where you can go, oh, I could take this idea and apply it here, just modify it for this particular fish. And I love it. I mean, that group of fishermen that is there, that not only they're just fun, great people, but they're really dialed in on angling.
Yeah, and I find that and that's when we first started our show years ago, people, a lot of the manufacturers is, you guys are, we're preaching to the choir, and I'm like, it's the thing is yeah, I'm not going to say I think our anglers that come to the show are the avid guys, and the thing is like, and we get a lot of you guys, like, don't get me wrong, we get a lot of you people, but there are also people that deliver that message, and there are also people that really can contribute even back to you. It sounds like where you're taking that and using some of those conversations and trying to figure out, well, how do I apply it to this? And that's always something that's good. You do that in everything in life, I think, right? So, it means a lot for you to say what you said about coming to our show, and I'm being very sincere. Jeremy, when you come up, it's during the day, it's after the day, it's everything that whole weekend. And that's what a lot of people say. Like, it's the whole weekend that make that show.
It is a full, yeah.
Really,
Yep.
it's a full during and after type hour thing. We go out for dinner. We got like I'm sitting at a table, and I got you, and I got Gord, and I got all these guys, Sarek, and I got all you guys sitting at a table. And you know what? It's one of my favorite things about the show, because I love to eat. Obviously, you can tell. Right? But I just love.
Yeah.
I love watching you guys converse. I love listening to you guys talk, and I sit there and I'm like, wow, and I think, I can't believe I'm sitting at this table with all these guys, right? And dude, you're one of the guys. No matter how you look at it, and your knowledge is incredible. We get tons of people that are asking every year, is Jeremy coming up? Who's coming up? Who's going to be there? And they get all excited about it. So it's pretty cool. It is really, really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's
we have to
great.
decide what we're going to talk about next year. I don't know. Maybe we got to talk about maybe I don't know. We'll figure that one out.
Yeah, maybe ask everybody what they're looking for. So there's never going to be a shortage of stuff to talk about. That's for sure. It's funny to talk about.
You're one of those guys that I think that, I don't know, maybe we don't even need to put a topic on it. I think what we should do is go around with a box full of different fish species, and they reach into the box, and then you have to answer on whatever that species is, and put you on a spot. And I think you'd always have, I'd say stump Jeremy. I'd like to see if you get stumped.
Well, there's no certainties in fishing, but there's just kind of some hypotheses that you put forward. But yeah, it's fun. Jimmy and I did a show, the only show we did this year a couple weeks ago, and it was a workout. It was a lot, but the idea was just to take a few general topics every half an hour, but it just turned into a Q&A over the weekend, and that was really a fun thing, because when you can turn those talks, I mean, we're learning just as much as the people in the crowd are. We may have done it more, but we're still always open to learning stuff. And so you get people that'll share a little bit of information with you about where they've been successful, and now they're looking to improve on that success. And so you can offer your ideas on what you think might make it better. But along the way, it's fun to converse, and it just makes the whole dynamic much better. And when it's that Q&A, people get what they want to get out of it, and it's pretty fun.
Well, dude, all I can say is, I'm happy you had a chance to come on. We got a chance to talk to you, get to know who you are. I think that you've been an ongoing. I think since when you were a kid, I was listening to you. I think you've started at one point. I don't think it's ever going to end. You know what I mean? I think your knowledge and your vision of what we're trying to do here is we're really much on the same page. And it is a show. Yeah, it is. We try to do our part. It's how we pay our bills. But, we try our best to go over and beyond. And I think that Lindner Media does that very well. Guys like you, like, it's not like, as much as there's always a cost factor in doing things and how far can we go with it. I think it's important that the experience is we try to do our best in giving you the best experience at the Spring Fishing Boat Show. And I think in general, when you watch any of the Linders and like any of the product you guys develop, it's 100% that, like, the experience, the knowledge that comes out of it. I don't feel like I'm being educated by a teacher where, I'm looking at something thinking, okay, whatever, it's just like everything that when you guys talk about it, it's a feeling that you get from it, which is a completely different scenario. Like, and I've said this many times. I go, as kids, a lot of us didn't like going to school. You know what I mean? So you sit in a classroom and you're listening to a teacher telling you how to do things or what to do or whatever. But it's never ever been. I've never taken any of the Lindner stuff that way. Like it's like it was like my favorite class because it didn't make me feel like I was in a class. I felt like I was part of that. And you've kind of like you've actually said that. We take the people we meet and we use that and develop that into making things work on different species, right? So honestly, I think you guys are doing a great job. I really hope you guys continue to do a great job. It always seems to get better and better. I don't know how that happens, but you guys are always getting better and better in everything you do. And we're definitely looking forward to next year and you being a part of it. And maybe you know what, consider maybe the Ultimate Ice Fishing Show, because that, maybe you can bring a whole new dimension to sturgeon through the ice.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I hope that show is a success. We'll see how the timing works out on that one, and yeah, hope it goes well. Ice fishing is one of those things that just keeps exploding in popularity. More and more people getting into it. So,
well, okay, buddy. Well, you know what, dude? I was going to say thank you very much for coming on. It was an honor, and it's a pleasure to see you. Because it's a reason to talk. But if you ever want to come to Ontario, you want to shoot a show, our house is open to you, and I'm sure a lot of people would love to bump into you underwater up here in Canada. So. Say hi to all the boys from me down there, and it won't be long. You'll be back up here, my man.
All right. Well, thank you, Andy. I appreciate it, and all the best. We will be in touch, and hopefully see you soon.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeremy Smith, I'm going to tell you right now, I think somehow down the road he's related to those guys. I should have asked him if he was related to them, because he thinks very much alike, but, we've had a lot of opportunities to speak on and off the air, like and sometimes those dinners and stuff like that, and you can really kind of understand that it's a passion for what they do, and it's a passion. We kind of look for that passion when we bring speakers like Jeremy up, because they're not just there because, hey, it's a job to them. They're there because it's passion driven, and they really want to learn. And they're not people that are holding back secrets. Like when they're telling you stuff, it's real, and it's stuff that really works. So sometimes you sit there and think, well, they're talking about muskie. How does that relate to, bass or pike or anything else? But sometimes you just have to take take what the content of it and kind of manipulate it to work for what you're doing. So, but again, I just want to say thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned, because we got a lot of speakers this weekend, and we're hoping we're going to get to the hearts of these guys and tell you how they tick and what they're all about. So thank you for tuning in.
Every day on the water is a blank canvas. You can reach new waters and ride endless waves. So drop the hammer or the anchor and let adventure be your guide. Mercury engines are made for exploring. So are you. Go boldly.